Alright guys, good morning. Welcome to Rainchaser. I don't know how many of you know about this game, but it is probably the game I am most excited for its development and for its release. This and Armed Decobot, I guess, are the my two games that I'm looking forward to the most. You don't see a lot of games really in the indie sphere that are influenced by Radiant Silvergun. And I know a lot of this is influenced by Zero Ranger as well, but when you look at it, Zero Ranger was referenced by Silvergun a lot too, and Radiant Silvergun is one of my favorite shmups. I believe that it does a lot of things that shmups just don't do. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. But this is a wonderful game by Cornod, I believe is how you say his name. He is a Japanese developer, and I guess I learned about this through Shoot the Core. They had released a news discussion on it a couple months ago, and downloaded the demo and have just replayed the demo more than I've ever replayed a demo ever. So yeah, it's kind of got like Toho style controls where there you got three different kinds of shot buttons depending on your power ups, kind of like Silvergun, and then a slow button, which I do really appreciate. I always love when a game has a slow button. The way combos work in this is it slowly counts down depending on what you're killing, and then you can also get like crystal bonuses, kind of like a terror in game from picking up the crystals that enemies destroy or drop. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I've picked up the back shot, and it's got two separate fire modes depending on how you shoot, or depending on if you're hitting the slow button or not. Another thing I really appreciate about games is when they don't have collision damage. I love when shmups don't have collision damage, because it really promotes point blanking and like positioning the best for your shot, and not necessarily positioning for like kind of like cheap hits from the enemies. It's really hard to do well. I've seen a lot of games where it is super easy to win. It just kind of feels free, because you can get so close to enemies without really worrying about taking damage at all. This is a short and sweet, kind of almost like, I wouldn't necessarily call it a proof of concept, but it definitely is getting the points across of what it is trying to say. This is what they call the sword. And it kind of confused me at first, because anytime I think of a sword in a game, I think of a Silvergun or a Birdcage, that kind of thing, where it's a legitimate sword that you have. These are more like options that just kind of hang out in front of you and hit in a circle. It's more so like, speaking of Silvergun, that kind of homing missile weapon you have in the game. Reminded me a lot of like a mixture of those two things. I love the art style in this, kind of steampunk art style, but it's got a little bit of fantasy in here. Here in a minute, you're going to see that the bosses are called Great Witches. And I really love that. Or I think Witch Construct is the name of this train we're going to be taking on. And I love that they have a dismantling boss, like first true boss in the game. You've won my heart whenever it's you don't beat around the bush and just have me taking apart something within the first 10 minutes of the game. I took a lot more hits than I ever meant to in this. I guess I recorded about 3 times trying to get a really good run. The whole point of me recording this is because I was talking to Hidden Fortress yesterday, and he didn't know about this game, and I thought that was kind of crazy that he's, you know, kind of missing out so much. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that there is no real centralized like news in our community. Like, you either have to seek it out yourself, or you have to kind of know someone that knows, and that really sucks. It sucks that, you know, a Time Extension doesn't even have all the stuff about this. Or I remember there for a while before I joined Twitter, I was learning about shmup stuff from Gamatsu, and it barely has any news about shmups. But other than like Shoot the Core's Discord and just learning from random people, how are you supposed to know about these releases? Or like running across them on Steam. So this video is mostly just a PSA on you should be keeping an eye out for this. I know this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's so well made. And I'm such an old school anime fan. I remember back in the 90s, the old Sci-Fi Channel used to have Anime Saturdays, I think. That'd be over my grandmother's, and it would come on really early in the morning, and they'd show stuff like Iria and Ghost in the Shell and Akira and Wicked City and stuff like that. All heavily censored because it's, you know, that's on cable television, but you know, that stuff really got me into anime. I never really fucked with, like, I would guess, like the teenager kind of focused anime. Like, I'm not big into One Piece or anything, but I really like that old school, like, Studio Madhouse, like Vampire Hunter D kind of look, and this just scratches that itch so well. I think that's one of the reasons why every time I boot up Silvergun, I never skip the intro. I always watch that intro. That was Studio Gonzo, a bunch of refugees from Studio Gainax that did that. I somehow cannot believe that I got hit by some of the most simplest patterns, but somehow dodged this insane, like, random stuff. Last time I beat the boss, I didn't have to deal with this part, so I had no clue how to dodge it. I love that you can see her sticking out of the cockpit in the top. That is so cool. But yeah, I follow Kernod on Twitter. He doesn't seem to post a lot, but I think you can tell that he's very dedicated to making this his project, which I think is a downfall of some devs, where they are like, okay, yeah, I'm working on this awesome game, and everybody gets excited over it, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm also working on this other awesome game, and you're like, okay, cool, what about that first awesome game? Oh yeah, by the way, I'm also working on this other awesome game. And it's like, bro, okay, chill the fuck out and work on the first thing, okay? Get that done, which I do get. You know, I was a musician, or am a musician, but used to, you know, write a ton of songs, and it's so cool to, like, be like, okay, well, I got this, and I got this, and I got that, but sometimes you just gotta have a little bit of discipline and just kind of be like, alright, I gotta fucking focus. So, alright guys, hope you have a good rest of your morning.